It's Bobby Bovell here, your virtual pastor at Mount Pisgah for Candid Conversations. Today's topic is why it is important to avoid the comparison trap. When comparison with others is rooted in competition, it leads to spiritual dysfunction and poor mental health instead of being able to recognize and embrace your own uniqueness, because you realize that you're not competing with anybody else because no one is you. You have cornered the market, so to speak, in the insert your name category. I've cornered the market in the Bobby Bovell business, therefore no one else is in competition with me for this role. There's only ever been one Bobby Bovell, and there's only ever going to be one Bobby Bovell. It's one of the amazing blessings of being a human that you are totally unique. Even if you're a twin, right? You guys have different personalities and characters and a life and a soul that is all your own. So to compete with others is kind of a crazy idea. If we look at the nature of competition, competition means that you are offering the same product or the same service to the market. But when it comes to being you, you're the only one offering that product to the market, so to speak. So it's important to avoid comparison, because it means that if you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're looking probably at what they're doing and saying you're not as good as them, or that you're looking at them and saying on the more self-righteous side that you're better than them. Both lead to some form of spiritual dysfunction and poor mental health, because you're not accepting and embracing your own story, possibly looking at someone else's story and saying, life would be better if I was that person, or life would be better if I had the things that that person has, if I had that job, if I had that relationship, if I had that car, if I had that house, if I had those skills, etc., etc. It's important for us to be able to maintain healthy mental health and really a vibrant spirituality, that we embrace the fact that God has made you to be you and nobody else. And it's not in life about how good you are at being what everyone expects you to be, but it's about being what you are and who you are, and doing what you are supposed to do, fulfilling the vision for yourself that has been given to you by God, which is revealed through your own skills and interests, instead of looking at others and thinking, why am I not more like them? It can be something that can creep up on you. And I want to talk about this idea by looking at one of the stories that's reported in the book of Matthew about Jesus. It's in chapter 16, where he takes his disciples away to a region called Caesarea Philippi, somewhere that good Jewish boys of their age shouldn't really be, because it was a place that was outside of the holy territory, a place that it was probably easier for Jesus to get them to start thinking about who they were. Right? When you get out of the environment with which you are familiar, then it can often lead you to look at life in a more creative way, look at yourself in a more intuitive and self-aware way. So the text says in verse 13 of that chapter 16 that he asked his disciples, Jesus did, what or who do people say that the Son of Man is? Now that question, he says, who do people say that the Son of Man is? He's asking them, who do people say that I am? But he's using a designation called the Son of Man, which is a reference from the Old Testament book of Daniel, where there is a character in that book who appears before the God the Father on the throne and appeals on behalf of human beings and stands sort of as a representative of human beings. So he's a legendary figure in Jewish history at this point, because they see the Son of Man as someone who has been able to venture across the veil into heaven, to stand in front of God himself, right? And to be able to administer justice and peace for humanity. So when he says, who do people say the Son of Man is, he's not just using it as a designation or as a creative way of saying who do people say that human beings are, even though that's also implied. He's actually, in the question, giving himself his own identity. He's self-defining and saying, look, this my uniqueness, what do people say about my uniqueness, in a way, right? The Son of Man was someone who would rescue humanity, would make the world a better place, right? So when we look at him saying, who do people say the Son of Man is, he's asking the question on one hand, who do you think I am? Who do you think I should be? But at the same time, he's also self-defining, which is something that's very important for our own mental health and well-being, isn't it? For us to say, I'm here and I'm allowed to take up this space and I exist and I have a story to tell. The Son of Man was not just a title, it was actually a wider story to which Jesus was connecting himself so that they could understand, even in the question, that he had a sense of self, right? It's important for us to develop that, a sense of self, a sense of who we believe we are supposed to be, why we are here, what it means for us to explore the life that we have and to make the impact on the world that we're supposed to make. Doesn't mean you have to save the whole world, but you should have in your own sense, in your own self, a really pure idea of why it is you exist. And when you have that really pure idea of who it is you are and why you exist, then it's more difficult for you to compare yourself to others and their mission because you've got your own mission. Let's move on. He says, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others still Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. So again, you have this designation of people think that you're in the prophet category. Those are some really cool names to be associated to in biblical times, even now, to say that you're like John the Baptist, recognized as a prophet who brought the people together in a time when they were wandering around, took them to the wilderness and established community even there, right? Again, outside of our comfort zone, outside of what we would typically know, right? He's seen as someone who brings people together and does things that no one else has done before. Then you've got another massive name, Elijah, right? A very famous and well-known prophet who in many ways was also connected to breaking down the veil between like heaven and earth. So someone who connected the humanity with the divine. And then also you've got Jeremiah and one of the other prophets. Now, this is a cool category to be in, but as we see, Jesus doesn't really take it. He said to them, but who do you say that I am? Right? You're saying that I am, you're saying that people are saying that I'm a prophet, but who do you say that I am? And it was important for him to ask them, what's your take on it? Because the category of prophet could in large part be seen as a category of people who were giving people more morals, more rules, more things that we needed to do in order to be eligible to participate in the divine story, right? Instead of just keeping himself to that category of prophet, because really what do human beings need? More things that we need to live up to, more rules and regulations that we need to put on our list of things that we need to do. That's already a really long list, right? I think Jesus was pointing at the fact that it's not about trying to find a new list and category of things that we need to do, but really about finding someone who can rescue us from this self-obsession and comparison with others, which is often caused by moralizing, or which is often another root of comparison, right? Moralizing and saying, why am I not like this other person morally? Why am I not more like this other person in terms of my own physical power, my own spiritual power, right? My impact on the world. He's saying, instead of trying to compare yourself to other people, why don't you accept who you are, accept where your story is going and live that, instead of jumping off and springing out and trying to escape into someone else's life. Why don't you really start to investigate who you are. And that can be a difficult thing because sometimes you might see things that you don't like, but those need to be embraced before they can be changed anyway. And it's important for you to live your story and live your life instead of living the life that others think you should live, or even the life that you think you should live. If it's not a reality, there's no point in you trying to be a massive painter if you don't have those skills. But if you can get to a place where you realize that you don't have them skills, then you could probably start to work on building them up, right? But if you look at someone else and start to compare how good they are without recognizing, all right, where am I in relationship to this goal that I have, then you're never gonna get there, right? That's why the comparison trap is so dangerous for our growth and for our creativity and for our curiosity and for our lives, for our inner self and well-being, right? So he says to them, "Who do you say that I am?" And then Simon Peter, one of his disciples, who was very vocal, "You are the Messiah," right? "The Son of the living God," he says. And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood," in other words, humanity, right? The normal intuitive ways in which we look at things with our senses, right? Not there's anything wrong with that. He's just saying that that's not where you got this information from. He's saying that this information was given to you by the Father in heaven. In other words, this idea that I am the Messiah, really in line with what I said before about Jesus now saying, look, it's not about another moral teacher. What we need is someone who's like a savior from that, someone who can allow you to accept yourself so that you can move on, right? So you can be you. And he says, "I tell you, Peter, I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." And it's a wordplay that he's using because the word for Peter was the same as, very similar to the word as rock in Greek. And he says, on this knowledge, I will build my church, right? So on this idea that what we don't need is someone to compare ourselves with, but someone who can free us from the idea of comparison itself. It's a massive, huge, huge, huge idea that Jesus presents here, right? "I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades," in other words, the gates of hell, "will not prevail against it." And when he makes this statement, he says, "On this rock I'll build my church, I'll build my community, I'll build my assembly, right? I'll build my tribe, yeah? And the gates of Hades will not prevent." What rock is he talking about? He's talking about the rock of the understanding that it's not about you, that you can move past yourself, and you shouldn't compare yourself with somebody else because God has made you to be you. So why not enjoy being yourself? Think about who you are and what your desires are. Go deeper into those desires. Obviously, there'll be times when we do things that are quite quick fix when you look at your own desires. You might want to eat fast food, or you might want to take the shortcut, so to speak, and that's all right sometimes. But if you do it all the time, then you're not going to have the real type of fuel that you need in your life to get to where you want to be, right? You're going to have the level of resources that you're going to need in order for you to avoid comparison, because this idea of not comparing yourself to others is a sort of higher form of thinking about reality and about yourself, that you're not competing with anybody else. No one else can be you. So he says, "On this rock, Peter, I will build my church." And again, Jesus is saying, "I will build my church." It's not a human exercise. The creation of communities and transformative communities is not something that is the purview of humans, but it's something that the divine is working on. And there's an invitation there that you can join in, instead of looking at it like we as humans are the ones that are responsible for the divine project. No, the divine project has been going all this time, and all we have to do is really just align ourselves and say, listen, I want to be involved. I want to participate. I want to open myself up to that. And the only way you can open yourself up to a real vibrant connection with the divine is to accept that you are who you are, instead of trying to avoid that by comparing yourself with someone else. Because when you compare yourself with someone else, you also fall into the trap of trying to live someone else's life. And when you're living someone else's life, then if God is blessing you, then is he blessing your life, or is he blessing that other person's life that you're pretending to be or that you aspire to be? He says, I will build my church, the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. Just finally, when he says the gates of Hades will not prevail against it, this is also a really powerful way of him saying, death will not prevail against it. It's very proactive. It's like he's saying, this kingdom that I've got is not something where you have to hide and hope that life is really good all the time. In other words, hoping that you have someone else's life, some ideal life that you've created in your head, like some kind of castle fantasy in your mind, right? Instead of creating that castle fantasy in your mind, you can be proactive and go to a level of strength, go to a level of spiritual awareness and mindfulness where you could even attack the gates of hell, so to speak, right? It's metaphoric. He's not speaking literally like you're going to go and attack the gates of hell. He's speaking metaphorically and saying you would be able to attack the gates of hell and be able, in many ways, to overcome even death, all of the things that take away our life from us. And what takes away life from us more than the comparison trap? Well, I hope this has made sense to you. I just want to encourage you to be yourself, accept yourself, and allow who you are to rise to the surface of your own soul and of your own life. And when you do that and you avoid the comparison trap, I believe that you'll be more fulfilled, you'll be more at peace, and you'll be more powerful than you ever could have imagined. Peace. Hey guys, so glad that you're all with us again here for Candid Conversations. There's a question that's just come in. So how do you practically avoid comparing yourself with others? Well, as I said in the video, I think it's important that you embrace your own story, embrace the fact that you're unique. To compare yourself with others is in a lot of ways to deny your own God-given uniqueness, because maybe you feel that who you are is not good enough, or on the other hand, maybe you feel that you are you're better than others, so you sort of compare yourself to them in that way, and you end up losing your sense of uniqueness because you're so focused on others, right? So I think the main practical way you can avoid the comparison trap is to really delve into your own uniqueness as an individual. Lean into that, whatever it is that makes you you. What are the things that you enjoy? What are the things that other people have told you that you're good at? What are some of the things that maybe frustrate you that you'd like to work with and do something to affect change within? If we look at those particular areas, then we'll begin to stop comparing ourselves to others, stop thinking that others are better than us or that their life is more desirable than our own. Once we really start to lean into our own story, write it down, start to put something on paper in terms of what is my story, what have other people told me about the core of me that I can use as fuel so that I can embrace my own story instead of comparing myself to others and then falling down the rabbit hole of believing that they're better than you are, or that we're better than them. We're all the same. We're all unique. We're all given God-given talents and gifts and things that we can do that no one else can do, just by virtue of the fact that you're you. Even when you do something that is on paper the same as someone else, it still is going to be colored by who you are and what your gifts and talents are, right? Two people will sing the same song very differently because we're all just so unique, and that's a beautiful thing, and it's something that needs to be embraced. It's an amazing phenomenon of humanity that we will be the only people who will ever be us, right? It's a crazy idea when you really think about it. So you can't compare yourself to anyone else because you are entirely unique, and no one else can be you or offer that product, so to speak. to the market. Are there any other questions coming in that you'd like us to discuss? Oh, here's a question. What's the significance of Palm Sunday? Because it's Palm Sunday today. Yes, the significance of Palm Sunday is that it was the day that Jesus rode into Jerusalem, and people were putting palm leaves down the floor, on the ground, and for him to ride in on his donkey. The significance is that 150 years before that, there had been an uprising in the Roman kingdom in Morocco, where people had tried to throw off the chains of Roman colonialism, and these palm trees were a symbol of that. And people started shouting "Hosanna, Hosanna," which was also a symbol recognizing that they'd like to be set free from the sort of oppression and lack of ability to self-govern that was caused by Roman occupation and Roman control of their existence. So Palm Sunday is a time for us to try to sort of wave our palm leaves, so to speak, and pray to God that we will be set free from whatever it is that may be hindering us and keeping us from living a full expression of ourselves. So yeah, that's what Palm Sunday is all about. It's the beginning of what's known as Holy Week, culminating next weekend with the Easter period, which symbolizes resurrection. I really think that Easter is really important for me because it's about second chances. We all could do with those every now and then, probably every day. Questions coming here: are there methods to determine my skill sets? Yeah, you definitely can. You can go for it in one of two ways. You can sort of do a self-inventory where you begin to really delve into who you are as an individual and try to work out what are the things that you're good at, what are the things that others have said you're good at, what are the things that you are angry about in the world that you'd like to change, you'd like to bring about change in. You can do that sort of self-inventory, look into what it is you're good at, what it is you enjoy, and that's often a way of you working out what those skill sets are. Either that, or you can take some kind of skills inventory. There are a lot of them online where you can just type in skills inventory in Google, and it will give you a sort of probably a personality profile, which will enable you to work out the things that you are good at on paper, And there are two main types of personality for humans. There is extroverts and introverts, right? Extroverts are usually pretty good with people, with storytelling, with the more, front of house types of tasks and skills. And introverts are usually better at tasks and more behind the scenes stuff, because they get energized by tasks and by alone time. But extroverts typically get energized by being with people. Now, obviously, we all get energized by both, but your main engine will give you an indication as to whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert. And once you've worked that out, then you can see, all right, well, I'm really good with the numbers, or I'm really good with that administration, or I'm really good with caring for others, or I'm really good with serving others, etc., etc. You can use that method also to find out what your skill sets are. Also, it's really good to just talk to people, and get them to perhaps give you a little bit insight into, what am I good at? What do you think is the core of me, so to speak? And then that's often a very good way of finding out what you're determining your skill set. I hope that helps. Are there any other questions coming in? Any other questions coming in? If there aren't, then what we'll do is we will begin to close down, I think. Please do go and subscribe to Mount Pisgah's YouTube page if you'd like someone to pray with you, talk with you, maybe explore the scriptures to help you try and see yourself in that story and try to find out what your purpose is. Because when everyone is doing what they're called to do on the planet and what their purpose is, then the world becomes a better place and the kingdom comes, so to speak. So yeah, don't be shy. There's some really nice people that will do everything they can to guide and assist you in your journey. All right. Well, there don't appear to be any other questions, so I'm gonna sign off. I'd just like to pray for you that you really enter into a place where you don't feel that you need to compare yourself to others, but that who you are is enough. You're the person that God has allowed you to be and created you to be is enough, and that you're blessed to be you. You don't need to try to be anybody else. All right. Okay. Well, thanks very much. I've been Bobby Bovell, one of your virtual pastors for Candid Conversations. See you again sometime soon. Next week, we'll be talking again about some really cool concepts in terms of how to have a vibrant, practical, and vital spirituality. Peace.
Thank you for joining us this evening for Candid Conversation. If you love what you saw here tonight, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as turn on your bell notifications so that way you know every time we go live. Have any questions? Be sure to click the link in our description box and let us know your thoughts. And remember, ain't no judgment on this side. Also, be sure to like, comment, and share us on all of your social media platforms so that way your friends and family can be a part of the community as well and stay in the know of everything here at Mount Pisgah. See you next time.